You can elevate your training from good to unforgettable by tapping into your superpower, which is your own personal story, your own journey. I want to show you the art of converting your story into training sessions. It's not just about sharing knowledge, but about crafting unforgettable experiences for leaders so they will tap into your heart, your soul, and your spirit as you develop them in your leadership pipeline. Hi, John Finkelde here from Grow a Healthy Church. Welcome to the Build a Leadership Pipeline series. In this session, I'm going to show you the steps you can take to harness your own story. I'm going to teach you how to turn those stories into powerful training sessions. I'm going to help you understand why this is so helpful, why it's essential, and I'm going to give you a simple task at the end to do to get you really moving into this methodology of training. We're talking about how to move from a teaching environment into a training environment. And we talked in the last session, the last episode, about how you can use the 4-step methodology to make sure that your sessions with your leaders are highly impacting. And I think another way to do this is by tapping into your story, your journey, the things you've learned as a church leader. And if you're a pastor, there are so many stories you have in your own experience, in your own discipleship journey that you can utilize to disciple your leaders, to help them grow in following Christ and serving the church. So here's a simple method that I've used to tap in to my own story. What I do is I come up with a title, and now I did all this before ChatGPT arrived on the scene, but I think actually GPT AI can actually help you a bit more with this, but you really don't actually need to tap into AI to do this. So I would come up with titles like 7 ways I kept a great attitude when things go wrong. Now, I wouldn't try to think of the 7 things or the 7 ways that I kept a good attitude when things go wrong. I would just look to see what are attitudes that I've kind of mastered. What attitudes have I really kept in place? What attitudes have I really looked into that have really got me through things when things haven't turned out? And by having the number 7 at the front of that, rather than just some great attitudes when things go wrong, having number 7 pushes me to come up with 7 aspects of that. Another topic would be 5 things I do when I'm delegating to a leader or to a team member. And I think about, what do I do when I delegate to someone? And I go through and come up with 5 things, 5 steps that I do. And then in those 5 steps, or the 7 things about keeping a great attitude, I then come up with stories related to those things. So 5 things when I'm delegating to someone, I'll make sure that I empower them with written instructions. And I'll tell a story about the time when I delegated to someone and it was very unclear and I didn't write it down. They got confused. I got upset. The job didn't get done. And suddenly there's power and life in the principle because you've brought your own story to the table. But I found this particular framework helpful because it pushes me into a list approach, which you just don't want a barren, dry list. But when I look at my list, I think, how many of these points in the list have a story? Let's see if I can find a story for everything in the list. Then as I go along, I go, you know what? I've only got 3 stories, so I'm going to change the training to 3 things I do when I'm delegating to a team member. And then I'll have 3 stories, 3 principles, and then I might want to switch to some show and tell. Remember that last episode? I show, you tell, some methodology in the delegation process in all that. But I find that having a title with a number in it stimulates me into writing, into getting the brainstorming going along. And so things like 8 things I do when I'm meeting someone for the very first time. Great training for your greeters, for your welcome team. And so I'll think through, what are 8 things that I do? Right, I get a hold of their name. 2, I listen intently. 3, I don't interrupt them when I'm talking. 4, I hold back my own stories. I want to hear their stories. 5, in the church context on a Sunday, I want to try and get their contact details. 6, I want to make sure they got a hot drink or a nice cold drink in their hand. 7, I want to make sure that we've got some follow-up context that gives me an opportunity to connect with me. I'm just making this up as I go along. I'm having a brainstorming session with you in this episode. And you can see what this does. It gets content out of here, down here, into your computer, into your iPad, into your iPhone, whatever you're using to collect that data, maybe paper for your brainstorming session. Doesn't matter what the medium is, you've got it out of here, down there. Then you can go, story. When did I do this? Oh, yeah, that time I asked someone for their contact details and they said no. Oh, wow, that was awkward. But that story can then be followed on. But the next week, I asked again and someone said, yes, I overcame that fear. I mean, you just go to the story zone. But get started with making a list with a number in it. And you've all clicked on articles that said 7 things to stop worry, 5 things to increase your income. You all go, well, I wonder what the 5 are. This just stimulates this imagination area. So here's the task I want you to do. I want you to write a simple training session. 3 things you did to keep an upbeat spirit when you felt sad. 3 things you did to keep an upbeat spirit when you felt sad. Now, nothing wrong with feeling sad. That's normal. Sadness is a part of life. But there are times as a leader that you have to not let sadness overrule everything else in your world. And you have to present to people a position of, I'm trusting God, I'm relaxing the Lord, I'm casting my cares on Him, and I'm not going to put my sadness onto other people as I lead them in this particular opportunity. So maybe you don't like that topic. Pick another topic, just with 3 things, just to try this out. Do a bit of a brainstorm, get it out of here, down into your medium that you're using, and then think of stories that go with it and use that in a training session. Stories grip people, stories change people, stories inspire people, stories can make a difference in your leadership pipeline. God bless you. Let me know how you go with that exercise. And God bless you as you have a crack at that exercise.